On this episode of Arrows in Motion, we have Kate DeWulf. She's a Fortune 500 VP and founder of the Big Apple Red. We're going to talk about what it actually takes to advance a corporate career, how you build meaningful connections with mentors, and where to get started when you feel stuck.
Sort of just want to get started with, obviously, like, I know you 10 times better personally than I do professionally. I know the Cliff Notes. You've advanced a lot in the last 5 years. You just want to start with like kind of framing who are you and how do you kind of define yourself as a professional. You do two completely different things.
Yeah, I do. I do different things, but they have a beautiful convergence. So from a professional lens, I am a global business leader in technology. And what does that mean? I lead a team of sales professionals who lead some of my company's most large and strategic partnerships, which means I've been fortunate to negotiate and be exposed to some of the top leaders in the world, which is really cool for me because 10 years ago, I was not in this place. So that's what I do professionally.
That sounds like the dream for a lot of people that are in corporate right now.
Yeah.
Does that feel like the dream?
I think you have to define the dream, right? So it's funny because so on the other side of this, as I mentioned, so I lead this global sales team. I have the big title, I have the big salary, the exposure to, Fortune 50, Fortune 100 leaders. I see how decisions are made and markets shift based on those decisions. But I also see the flip side of, you finally get to that state and you're like, oh shit, this is how things are actually done. And what has it cost me to actually get here? And I think, so when you talk about the dream on paper and the dream that we've all been taught of, hey, do all these things and you'll get to this state and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. There's a lot of good that's in the role and that comes with it, but there's always a trade-off. And I haven't always been very good about recognizing myself and well-being, and that's one aspect that I focus on in my coaching with women.
So part of it is getting there, and the other part is like not losing yourself when you get there.
That's right. And it is very easy to lose yourself. It's very easy to ignore some other parts of your life if you're just all in on your career. And then you wake up and you're in the role and you're like, wow, my kids have grown and I've missed out on these things. And, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But I have figured out how to make it all work. And so I'm grateful for that. And I don't know if this is the direction that we want to go.
Yeah, I want to go the direction that's comfortable. And like the question that I bring up, and I know this is an early probe, but as a high performer, and I don't want to make you feel good about yourself, but that's how I see you. There's this sense of like, there's always further to climb. Like there's always another rung, especially in the world you live in. There's many rungs higher. Do you feel like you have achieved success, or is there another thing that you're pursuing as a professional?
I'm the type of person, I've been this way since I was a child, and I'll just preface this with, I was the kid who was the class president giving the welcome speech to hundreds of parents when I was in 7th and 8th grade. So I'm always aspiring for more. I am happy I've reached a level in my career much faster than I had set for myself, the goal. But I absolutely have more that I want to accomplish. I'm always striving for more.
What is your cycle of, and maybe it's completely different than how, obviously, like, I have my own thing. I'm pushing really aggressively towards a destination I have in mind.
Yeah.
What is your cycle of kind of self-evaluation, goal setting like?
I do that quarterly. So I have recently started to check in. So I had mentioned before, you can easily lose yourself and you can become sick and do all these things. I was in that state about 18 months ago. I was very unhealthy. I had reached the goal reach the job, reach the income, all the things, have the family, but I was burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. And I'll get to my point with this, but I started seeing an energy coach and really checking in on my energy, what serves me, what doesn't, what can I say yes to, what should I say no to, what are those trade-offs, and just checking in with how things were showing up for me, becoming more in tune with just even my body, right? And so when you ask 18 months ago, I would have told you I reevaluated my goals probably annually when everybody else did at the start of the new year, in addition to probably signing up for that gym membership. And now I reevaluate my goals quarterly, if not more frequently than that. And I do that by checking in with my values and looking at alignment. So is everything that I'm doing in alignment with my values, with who I am, with what I hope to achieve? And then what are my goals? Can I stretch higher, or what should I be doing? And when I think about goals, I think about them on several horizons. So there's the dream big goal, right, that I have that I always work towards. And then there's the micro goals that I need to accomplish in order to get there. And so it's those micro goals that I'm reevaluating regularly. But my dream big goal, for the most part, stays the same. Might have a few tweaks here and there. And
like your finish line North Star goal.
That's right. And one analogy, you're a golfer. So I like to think about goals. In golf, we all aim to shoot on par or maybe under par if we're good enough to get there. And that's kind of a joke because my golf game's nowhere near that. But we often have to check in on, is our grip right? Do we have our backswing? Are we leaning over the ball, right? And it's the setup that we have to check in on consistently in order to get even close to achieving that dream big goal of shooting par, for example. So it's checking in on the setup and the alignment in order to achieve that bigger goal.
So was there something that led you 18 months ago, and I don't know if it's a low point that usually triggers it for me, where you decide, snap, I need to zoom out a couple layers further and reevaluate what I'm doing?
Yeah.
What gave you this sense that I need to do this at a tighter time cycle and more carefully?
Right. So professionally, much hasn't changed for me professionally. I'm still climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, but I'm doing so in a much more strategic way than I was several years ago. But personally, a lot has changed. I mean, as you know, I lost my dad. We're going on 3 years now. And that was a triggering moment for me because I saw a man who was an incredible man, just full of life and just believed wholeheartedly in the bullshit dream of, if I give everything to work, everything, I'm going to build this life and then I'm going to be able to enjoy my retirement. Well, guess what? My dad died 2 years before he was planning to officially retire. He had gone into retirement and then went back into work to help someone get their business off the ground. And he never got to enjoy that retirement, so to speak. So that is, so seeing what he did, and I had a conversation with him a few months before he passed away. And, he traveled 90% of the year since we were young kids. And he did it to provide a life for us and to elevate the family, give us the right access and the exposure to things. I asked him if he would do it all again. And he said he doesn't regret the decisions because he's grateful. He was grateful for where he got our family to be. But did it pain him to miss out on the small things? Absolutely. Did he want to be there for us more? Yes. And that is what kept him up at night. And he looked at me and said, you have to think about your trade-offs. And so that he wasn't telling me what to do, but I was definitely going down that path where I was on the road every week and doing things. And for me, it was, hey, let's hit the pause button, reevaluate, and redefine what success looks like in my role. So when I stepped into this position, I was thinking about success from the definition of others who are in this role, who are successful. And that conversation with my dad, his passing, and then, this realization I don't want to go down that same path he went, was I get to define what success is in this role. And I've learned that I don't need to be on the road every single week. I can empower my team. I can trust my team to go have some of these important conversations. And I come in when I'm needed, truly needed. And I'll tell you, our numbers have not slipped. And so it's just making these small tweaks. And you asked me very early on, what does success look like? And I think these are the little tweaks that we have to make throughout our careers to determine if we're in alignment with ourselves and with what we want, and is that setting us up to achieve our longer term goals?
So you have this North Star broad destination of your goal and what success means, and that has not changed, through this period, but just kind of the way that you look at the path there has changed.
Correct. So I've always had very large, lofty goals for myself. I've always known that I will be, if I so choose to stay along this path, that I have the skill and the aptitude and the strategy to become a senior vice president at a publicly traded company. There's no question if I can get there. I believe in myself. I know that I can. And so that's what I continue to strive for. And but I think the question is that what I will always want? I don't know. That might change. And I'm open to that changing. And that'll be part of the ongoing evaluation.
So I wonder what your thoughts on, when I look in the mirror, and I think that some version of this is true for a lot of people, is like myself and a lot of my professional friends and acquaintances, we'd all run through a wall and outwork anyone if we knew that action would lead to our definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the pursuit of that, I often get stuck kind of on the hamster wheel and just running the race. And every time I've had an aha moment or a rediscovery of how I should be using my time, or I might be at, is when I usually, like you said, at the end of the year, when I have all of the clients calling and talking about how we're going to tear it apart and all that, you start to get off the hamster wheel and look at it and think, I think I'm on the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's years that pass when we're on the hamster wheel. How do you help people who have never jumped off the hamster wheel do that? Because this happens throughout school. High performers just keep working, and they never stop.
It does. And it reminds me of a gentleman that I'm currently coaching, has had a very successful career, specialized in, certain field in law, track in law, has made it his way all the way up to a partner status. And it's like almost 18 years in, saying, what the hell am I doing? I don't enjoy this at all. I despise waking up every day going to work. What am I going to do? And so if that's just one of many, many examples. This is a very common conversation that I have with folks. And so my job is not to get people to leave their jobs. My job, so the other half of what I do is I coach professionals. I help them understand, what do they care about? What do they want to accomplish in their life? And then how does their career align with that? Once we've done that, then coaching typically translates into, okay, how am I going to be the best at what I'm doing now that I figured out the right career for me in that path? So how am I going to find success in my role without losing myself in that process? So there's a two-pronged approach to the coaching. And so to identify what it is that you actually want to do in life, a lot of it starts with understanding your values. And as corny and cheesy as that sounds, it's like, what motivates you? What do you care about? I have a guided meditation. At some point, I'll take you through it if you're interested, that I take folks through to help them. Actually, do you want to go through it?
Yeah.
You want to go through the meditation?
Yeah, let's get some chi.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start by you're going to close your eyes. I'll invite you to take 3 grounding breaths. We're going to clear. So you're going to breathe in. Your exhale should be longer than your inhale. And with each breath, you are clearing and creating space for yourself to think and let go of whatever thoughts may be entering. You're going to do 2 more breaths. Keep your eyes closed for this. And you're going to imagine that you have a crown on your head And that crown is your energy just opening, and it's lighting. And with the last breath, you are releasing. And I want you to imagine that you're walking in your favorite place. It can be anywhere in the world. And you're walking. And I want you to recognize, what are you feeling? Maybe there's a breeze. Maybe it's hot and you've got a sweat dripping down your back, but you're walking in one of your favorite places. And as you're walking, you see a sign or a billboard, and it's your message to the people around you and to the world. And you acknowledge that message. And you keep walking. And you feel all the things that are around you. You see your favorite spots. And you're walking somewhere. And when you reach your final destination, you are celebrating. You're celebrating because the success has arrived. You've done it. And I want you to acknowledge who you're with, what you're celebrating, and what you're feeling and experiencing in that moment. And with the final breath, you can come back. That was a very I think I just broke a record. That normally takes it's a 30-minute roughly experience that I take people through. I just gave you a Cliff Note version of it. And I'm curious for you, where were you walking?
I was on a golf course.
On a golf course. Okay.
And all of like the people at both businesses were at like the clubhouse when we were celebrating.
Oh, that's amazing.
Everyone getting further.
Uh-huh. That's really great. So celebrating the progress. And what did your sign read? What was on your sign?
Lift everyone up.
Lift everyone up. So what does that tell you about what you value?
I guess community, team, loyalty, like doing it together.
Yeah. And what does that tell you about maybe your dream big goal?
I think it's tethered to the success of others as well.
So this concept of lifting up others and doing something together, right, is valuable to you. And that's part of your definition of success. And I think just knowing your business, I can see that.
I didn't really expect you to run an auger through my soul.
Well, that's what happens when we do this on your birthday.
So it's to flip it away for me because I'm getting uncomfortable and feeling things. Sure. So you obviously present as an extremely polished professional and are kind of, you have an incredible executive presence. So it's interesting to me that I think that is how someone coming to you as a consulting client might view you. But the foundation of all of this is more personal and emotional before you get to business at all. Is that a surprise when you start consulting people that it begins outside of the confines of work?
It is. But I'll tell you, I have not had one person turn me down yet to go through the work and to do the work. And that's how I present it. We have to do the work in order to see the results on the other side. And traditional methods have not worked for folks. And so I think that's why there's this openness to trying something new. And I'll tell you, I'm not proud of this, but the number of my male clients that I see cry at the end of some of these things is pretty high, because there's a lot of self-reflection and realization that comes out of this work. And once you can get through that and you can cut through whatever this exterior is that people are trying to show, then you start to truly find that alignment with what you want in your career. So you asked me, how do you get people off the hamster wheel? Number one, they have to recognize they're on the hamster wheel. They have to have a willingness to change. And the way to identify all of those things is to truly check in with self and to know what it is that you want. And if you ask someone point blank, what do you want to do? Well, you don't want to do that anymore. Well, what do you want to do? What do you think they're going to respond with?
I don't know.
which is why you have to take them through these experiences to help them realize what it is that's important to them, what it is they're working towards, in order for them to truly understand what they should do. Because I don't know what people, I can't tell someone what to go do, but my job is to help them figure out what they should do and getting them there on their own.
I'm just fascinated by, from the outside, and I know it is a slight to you to some level to take half of your world and kind of put it under the bucket of like career coaching, but that's kind of what I think it would be grouped under. And that looks from the exterior to some as resume writing, interview coaching, communications frameworks, and very much like the business equivalent of like EOS frameworks. What is the reaction, male and female and everybody, when you sit down with Kate the first time and it's, we're going to do a guided meditation? Like, is it, I'm so lost, I'm diving right in and let's do it?
Yeah, I think I catch people off guard with it. I try to set expectations up front, and I usually say, if you need to laugh, if I can tell you, I can see your face is changing color, or I see that smile coming on your face, what's showing up for you, and I let them clear that and get it off their chest, and I give them the option, do you want to proceed?
That's an interesting decision point. We're going to upload and flex. So, Kate, the values exercise is kind of a duh aha on there's, until you chart the course, there's no way to know if you're walking the right direction. It's very personal, obviously, what your values are and what your course should be. After you get through that exercise, what is next? It's like writing the thesis on the paper.
Yeah.
How do you fill it in?
Yeah. I mean, and that's where figuring it out one-on-one versus in a group coaching session is very different. And so I manage both. I facilitate workshops and one-on-ones. But it ultimately comes down to, then there's another reality check of, like, what are you good at? So you might want to go do all of these things, but then there's a reality of, in order to do those things, these are the requirements and this is the skill. And so we talk through things like skill alignment. And if you have gaps, how do you go fill those gaps? And we talk about financials and can I afford to do this? And what is that? And trade-offs with all of those things. And I don't flat out ask someone, can you afford to go do this? But I help them, I ask questions to help them think through the timing, and then it ultimately turns into a plan, right? And I've been doing this long enough, and I've had exposure to enough that I have a general idea of, roles and skills that I tell people, go investigate this, or go do reverse interviews, go ask people who are in these types of roles that you're interested in to share their experience. And you go interview them and understand if you think that's going to be a fit, right? And so you'll notice a lot of this is me just teeing people up and helping them figure out how do they go do the work to find the right alignment for themselves.
So at a certain level, I've gotten I have had the good fortune of knowing some incredible mentors, and you've, advised me well. How much of that is giving people the right to-do list to work from?
It's funny you ask that, because that's actually the reason that I started the Big Apple Red to begin with. I had this aha moment. I was talking with someone. I've been an informal mentor to tens, hundreds of women before I started the Big Apple Red. Now we're on track for thousands, which is incredible. But the recurring theme is I see people making the same mistakes. And like you, I have been blessed with the best of the best mentors, okay? And I woke up one morning, I remember looking over at Mike and I said, I'm just going to start this business. And I'm not going to do it to make money, at least at the onset, but I'm going to do, because I had a sense of gratitude that I had all these mentors. And then I had a sense of just deep-rooted concern for these people who don't have that guidance. They don't have the access to the checklist or how to handle this situation, how to deal with people, or because they don't have access to the resources that they need. That's why I started the Big Apple Red, because I wanted to give people access to the playbooks, so to speak, because we hear this all the time now. It's becoming such a buzzword, but they don't teach you that stuff. They don't teach you the things that help you advance in school.
So it's just kind of pattern recognition of the same struggles that early, mid-career, and even late career people.
Even late too. Absolutely.
When we bring on junior account managers, it's something we talk to the team about. One of the first exercises is, why don't you write this client email? Mm-hmm. And the outcome is going to be a violent, horrific text wall.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it's like,
yes.
no one will read. So it's like,
right.
The path you're walking.
Right.
As someone who's seen it hundreds and thousands of times, you feel like a fortune teller.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to go back to, you said you talked to Mike and said, I'm going to start this business. I, as a creep, went through your Big Apple Red social media all the way back to, I think it was 2023.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
You made your first post. Yes. Do you remember what it was that said, I'm going to post today?
It was exactly, I had just gotten off the phone with someone that I was mentoring, and I was just so shocked that this person was going to, it was a salary negotiation. I was so shocked that this person was going to accept an offer from from this company without countering. Now, if you know me, negotiation is one of my favorite activities. It's one of the parts of my job that I absolutely love. And I was just like, no, you're leaving so much money on the table. Do not do this. You are worth more. And, and so that's what prompted me to actually post that day was, we cannot be making this mistake. We need to be advocating for ourselves. But it's teaching people not just how to do it, what they should do, but giving them that confidence boost that they're worth doing it. Like, they owe it to themselves to be advocating for themselves. And so it was that conversation that had me actually hit whatever that button, the plus button on Instagram. I think that was, I don't know.
The damn kids.
But I did it. I did the thing. Yes.
So how much of how much of your work is around confidence? Because whether it's marketing or in boardroom conversations, having a mastery of preparing and delivering on the difficult conversation is so career shaping. Mm-hmm. And the things that, aside from preparation, that power that is confidence a lot of times. Mm-hmm. How big is confidence and how do you coach it?
Mm-hmm. Confidence is crucial. So, and when I say confident, I mean confidence in yourself to be able to deliver, to know that you've done everything that you can, and to be in control of yourself, right? You don't have to have all of the answers all of the time, but you have to be confident that you can get to the right answer, or you can work well enough with people to, get the thing to happen. So when I coach confidence, it's usually getting people to recognize that they have this imposter syndrome. And to be clear, I struggle with imposter syndrome still, and I tell people this after our coaching calls. But I have people actually name the imposter syndrome so that they can recognize when it's happening. So if somebody is saying, oh, I don't think I can do this, or I'm not ready for this, whatever that may be, I'll say, and what is showing up for you? Who is that speaking right now? And they're like, oh, that, the common names are like, that's Becky or whatever it may be. But they name the imposter syndrome, and then we reframe. And it's like, what's true in this moment? The truth is, I have prepared, I have my talk tracks, whatever it may be. And then we reframe. So we name the imposter syndrome, we identify what's true, then we reframe to have that confidence moving forward. And that confident reframe is the mantra that people take going into situations, or that they always come back to. That's a lot. I know.
It's well, I think it's an interesting thing, and I wonder how much value comes from, obviously in sales and account management, you meet a range of people from various levels of success. And I think the game breaker for me in my early career was like, oh, these unbelievably successful people are just like us, and they have the same insecurities and the same imposter syndrome and the same lizard brain behaviors, and exposure to that evens the playing field. How much do you draw from your experience in the boardroom and the highest levels to kind of communicate that to clients? Is that a big piece of it?
It is. I mean, I always joke, if you saw how decisions were actually made, you're like, what? How, really? You know, it's and so to your point, it's a classic, everybody puts on their pants the same way in the morning type of thing. It comes down to humanizing. We're all humans, and some people just have bigger sticks than others, right? And egos and whatnot. And it just comes down to, like, how do you identify the type of personality that you're working with, and then understand how to basically people better, right? Just work with the different personality types. And it's knowing all of those, how to read cues and all of that that builds the confidence up in folks to be able to go and proceed forward. But once you get a little taste of how things are actually done, it's this aha moment of, oh, I can do that.
You create when you're in my, growing up world, when you're sitting in a bullpen just hammering the phone and getting dirt kicked in your face all day, you create this mystique of what happens in the C-suite. You think it's sorcery and calculus, but it's a horseplay and ego, and there's data, but it's the same thing that's happening in the bullpen. And it takes seeing that to believe that you can do that.
That's right.
So is it sort of a single track? Like, you have to identify your values. You have to believe that you can reach the next level and achieve whatever success you've decided on. Like, are those prerequisites to executing?
I believe so. I believe you have to have this alignment in order to truly be successful without losing yourself or burning out. Now, do people have to go through the values piece? Maybe not. It just depends on their situation. Because often the most common question I get is, so we talked about C-suite, right? The boardroom, getting into the boardroom. How do you get a seat at the table, Katie? And it's, okay, if you really want to break this down, you want to get the promotion, you want to get the pay, and we need to figure out the value stuff later. We'll figure out how you sustain later, but maybe time is of the essence because these things are, decisions are being made right now. I say it comes down to three things: your aptitude, your brand, meaning your personal brand, and your connections. So we have to prove that you have the aptitude to do the work, right? You have to know what you're doing. Your personal brand, how are you communicating? How are you presenting yourself? All of that matters, right? It's what people are thinking about when you're not there, right? And how do you make them think and feel, and what do you want them to go do after they've interacted with you? That's your brand. And then your connections are the most important thing. So when we go through this with folks, I have a workshop I take people through, and it's called Meaningful Connections, but we actually map internal and external networks. We look at sources of influence and power, and where do they have alignment? Where do they have gaps? Who do they need to go connect with and build relationships with in order to have the advocates that will advocate to pull them up into those roles? That's how it all works. That's how people get promoted. It's how people get paid more. It's across those three horizons. And if you can do those three things, you're going to keep leveling up. And then we can do on the side the work of values and alignment to make sure leveling up is actually what you want to continue doing. And you can level up in a way that you're not physically harming yourself as well and getting so sick and throwing everything into work and forgetting about life.
I love that concept of mapping your connections, because you hear in high school, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yes.
And it just, it cycles through in different wrappings throughout your whole life, but it's difficult to be intentional with that. And I think this exercise of mapping it literally gives the roadmap to be intentional with cultivating relationships. It's like the more advanced selling of like, oh my goodness gracious, going to lunch with my connected friends is more valuable than pounding this list. What was I doing my whole life?
That's right. That's right. And then just on the sales front, because I know you have a sales team here, I lead a global sales team. I have my teams go through this from our client's perspective as well to understand. So we know that this person is has the power, holds the keys of the kingdom, right? The greatest influence. Who are they connected with? From the partner ecosystem, from internal, right? Who's connected to whom? Who can influence that person? I mean, there's a lot of strategy that goes into connecting in a meaningful way. But the key thing here is, because sometimes people say, well, am I manipulating? No, you're not manipulating. You're just gaining clarity. You're gaining clarity into how decisions are made. And then you are positioning yourself to be part of that decision pool, right? And setting yourself up for success. And again, that's where the values and some of that alignment comes in as well. You have to know what your intention is. And that's how you'll know if you're crossing into that no-note land of manipulating to get ahead.
So I want to because obviously building a connections map is going to be extremely personal and it's going to look very different depending on, how you grew up, where you lived, what your track was, where you are. So I want to ask a specific example.
Okay.
So early career, I had like a blue collar background and that's not where I wanted to be. So there were only a handful of people that I knew who had made it or were on the track that I wanted to be. So say I have a short list of 3 to 5 people that I know are valuable in my climb to the second rung. Do you have a blanket piece of advice for how to approach these people?
Yeah, Listen, I think it all starts with genuine curiosity. So when you're approaching someone for advice or you want to get into their circle, their inner circle, you have to have 2 things, 2 C's. You have to be curious and you have to be credible. So one of the most flattering things for a leader or someone who's successful is to talk to them about their success. I want to get to where you are, being very direct with people. I looking to accomplish this, and I see that you have done it, and I need help in getting there. And I'm curious, would you be willing to help me in whatever capacity that may be? And we can come to terms with what that might look like together. But are you willing to help me? And having a very direct, because what drives me nuts is people who are at that level, Scott, they don't have time.
No.
But a lot of them are willing to help you if you just make the ask. And so you cut through all the pleasantries and you just get to it. And then you can start to get to work and people will invest in you.
I remember early meeting you, and it was over a decade ago at this point, horrifying. And you had a more direct approach to trying to get to know me than anyone else I'd ever interacted with in my life. And I thought it was like, wow. That's shocking, and it's jarring because I think like a lost art is being direct. Yes. Well, so okay, speaking of, me being a man of culture, one of my favorite musicals, Hamilton, they talk about being in the room where it happens. I think like in corporate, that's really what it boils down to is you're always on the exterior of the layer you want to get into next, and you want to get a seat at the table. Once you identify that as your goal, you've worked with someone to build their confidence up, and that kind of the next step is executing on these frameworks of building your personal brand internally, increasing your visibility across departments, building advocates, learning to be more direct in your communication. How do you start advising on those things and like putting the building blocks in place to become this machine?
Right. Let's just anchor on a concept around personal branding. So there's an academic who's just done a tremendous amount of research in the marketing world. So I think this will apply. His name's Byron Sharp, and he has this concept of mental availability. And so when a brand, his classic example is Coke and Pepsi. So when a brand is launching a product, they want you to be top of mind. So anytime somebody says, do you want a soda? What do you think of? You probably think of a Diet Dr. Pepper. I think you're a Diet Dr. Pepper person.
You know everything.
I do.
Yes.
It's kind of creepy.
It has 23 flavors.
It does. It's wonderful. Definitely a great soda. But I mean, that has captured your mental availability from a soda standpoint. And so when the same is true when you're thinking about building your brand internally, it's like, what is that mental availability? How do you capture someone's availability when they're thinking about, a promotion or whatever it may be? Like you come to mind, and you have to build trust, and you also have to be present with that person. So I have this concept that I coach people through, and it's from workhorse to show horse. And so you can brand yourself all day long. You can understand how to communicate effectively. So I take people through how to read cues, body language, how to speak with confidence. Everything from when you want to gain someone's attention, you speak more slowly, in a lower tone, quieter tone, right? I mean, it just draws. So there's different tactics that you can use when you're learning to communicate. But then it's also just, I'm kind of losing my train of thought now because I'm thinking about your Korean barbecue later.
When you're building a brand, but you have to make it about something.
You have to make it, that's right. And so you have to know also, like, what does somebody want? Like, what do they care about? And so you want to be true to yourself when you're building your brand, but, also think about your audience and what do you want them to think, feel, and do after interacting with you, and how do you become that person that becomes, right, their go-to person. So going back to my train of thought of from workhorse to show horse, it's like you have the skill to communicate well. It's how do you then go advocate for yourself? How do you go communicate and create that visibility to yourself? And that comes up in various ways. I mean, small little tactics, like if there's a win on your team, if somebody did something well, send an email congratulating the team and recognizing the team members and copy leadership, right? It's really simple. You're not asking anybody to do anything, but you're highlighting a win for the team, whether you're the leader or not. You're highlighting a win for the team. You're showcasing leadership because you're acknowledging the people that you've worked with, and now your senior leaders can see it. And better yet, people can forward that email along, and now your name is, it's just getting out to the masses.
It's free brand impressions.
It is. Yes, exactly. So there's little tactics that you can do. Personal branding and visibility play, they're hand in hand here, because you can brand yourself well all day long, but if you're not advocating for yourself and putting yourself and making yourself visible and your work visible, your impact, everything should be tied to impact. What is the value that you're creating? Then you're just a workhorse. You're not showcasing your value.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most shocking realizations is that working hard and plowing the fields the best does not get you into the room.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most complicated topics in marketing that we work with clients on constantly, and even junior employees, and even we have to revisit ourselves as seniors, is, like you said, a brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we grossly overthink what others can remember about us and absorb, because their mental availability is very slight the higher they get.
Mm-hmm.
So for branding in like a business, you want to create something very simple and focus on repeatability.
Yes.
So how do you help someone decide how they're going to brand themselves, focus in on something that when they go home for the day, leadership says, that Katie, she's X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And have that echo through the halls.
Right. So I take people, I encourage people to think about their brand statement. So what do you want, I keep saying this, but what do you want people to think, feel, and do after interacting with you? What do you want them to think about you? And so I have a framework and I take people through and we create a brand statement. And then it turns into a one-liner. So when you're interacting with someone and someone's introducing you, what is the one-liner that they might say about you? Or what is the one-liner that you might say, hi, I'm Katie. I lead a global team in tech, and I'm known for what? Blank. So, for example, a couple years ago, I was known as, I'm not proud of this, Killer Katie, because I was very fierce in my negotiation capabilities and brought home a lot of bacon for the fam and for the people that worked with me. But I transitioned that because I didn't like that brand. I didn't think it was aligned with myself. So I transitioned that into, I'm Katie and I'm known for winning hearts and minds.
I like the sound of that a lot better.
Yes. So it still signals to my leadership that, I can get the job done. But I'm doing it in a way that's more aligned with who I am, and winning hearts and minds is part of the success in my role. So,
how hard was it to transition from, in a sporting analogy, Killer Katie certainly takes the last shot at the end of the game, and hearts and minds Katie is probably enabling others to take the last shot. Mm-hmm. How hard was it to you to pass the ball?
Mm-hmm. It was hard. I mean, it's still hard because when you have to do the role and you have to do the work very well in order to move on to the next role and start coaching and enabling folks to do that on their own. And when you see people doing something, you're like, man, if I just did that, we would have this done already. And so this is where the coaching, and I'm grateful that I became a certified high performance leadership coach because it taught me how to actually coach my team and help them advance and level them up. And it's made that transition of being the one doing it to the one leading it and coaching it much easier. But it is a very difficult transition. And again, for me, the transition was just trying not to control everything, right? Because I could see how everything was playing out, but asking questions to see how other people were thinking about it. Was their line of reasoning on track? And then, how do we just go make changes as needed? Right?
Did you have to reinvent your kind of internal communication style to reposition yourself?
No, if you know me, I am direct, and that rubs some people the wrong way. Other people really appreciate it, but it's who I am. And so I'm someone who speaks directly. We call it straight talk. I say, listen, we're going to straight talk right now. And I just deliver the message. That's whether that was Killer Katie or now Katie who wins hearts and minds. It's still straight talk. The delivery changes, of course, based on who I'm working with, because I'm the type of leader that I adapt my style based on the individual I'm engaging with. But for the most part, I've been pretty true to myself and consistent in that area.
So I don't want to brag about my literacy, but I read your last blog, your most recent blog, and I thought it was a really good, there's so many ways to talk about communication, and I really liked the 3 E's concept: entice, educate, execute. Do you want to kind of talk about where you came up with that, or how you arrived at that?
Sure. So I have to give credit for the entice piece to a global senior leader that I work with. She is a C-suite at one of my clients. And we were talking through a few years ago how we were going to basically sell this big project that we were thinking through. And she said, Katie, we have to come up with the headline. How are we going to sell everybody on the headline? What's the headline? And I thought, of course, the headline, that's how we need to lead in communication. Whether we're selling a project, whether we're giving someone an update, we have to start with the headline. What is it that we're here to talk about? And in less than 60 seconds, less than 30 seconds, tell people the impact, right? And so that's where entice was born, in this concept of sell people on the headline. What is that carrot that we're hanging in front of everyone to get them bought in and paying attention?
That's, I think, one of the most overlooked things, especially with juniors, is you overestimate people's attention and interest in hearing your monologue.
Yes.
And you need to drop the hook.
Absolutely.
So is that the missing element in a lot of the folks that you work with out of the gate?
It is. Sometimes people show up and they communicate as if, they'll start briefing someone. So in my role, my corporate role, we do a lot of executive briefings, both with our clients and internally. And the number of folks that I have seen that are not on my team, by the way, the number of folks that I have seen that come in and just dive right into the weeds, assume the executive knows exactly what they're talking about, right? They're starting midpoint. We have to say, hold on, let's bring this up a level and, typically reset. An executive's, most scarce resource is their time. And so you have to utilize that time. Anyone, not just an executive,
Sure.
Any leader, right? Any person, time is their scarce resource. So get to the headline, get to the point early, set expectations with what you're going to talk about, educate them on whatever, what the impact is, what the decision is that needs to be made, and then make your recommendation for the execution. If you have an ask, make that during that time as well. It's that simple. And people do too much.
I think that you did an amazing job in that blog of you used some examples and they were very brief, very punchy impact statement, very punchy education statement, very short and punchy. Here's the execution plan and resource allocation needs. And every time I look at something like that, I always think, wow, this is tight writing. How much do you think that there's never one problem in how people communicate? Is that the most pervasive, is jumping to the education piece and making that a text wall?
Yes. A lot of leaders will come out of that and say, wow, that was show up and throw up, or that was drinking from the fire hose, or that was a lot of information. And people come into conversations with leaders thinking they need to give every single detail to show that they've thought through it or whatever it may be. And the real art is coming up with those three pieces, right? What is the headline? So how are you going to entice someone? What do you need to educate them on quickly? And then what is your forward focus execution step, right? Your execute step. And so when you can do that, then you can deliver. And I always tell people, if someone wants to know more, they'll ask.
I only say three things in this office, and I bet everyone there knows which is coming, is like a famous literary phrase. It was, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.
Yes.
And it's so brevity is challenging when you're a subject matter expert.
It is.
And I think that the other one is like, remember the incentives of the people that you're speaking
100%.
to. So like when you're speaking to an executive, they have often this high level thing of more money, good, please. And your idea is on the same plane as 100 others that might lead to that. And it's so critically important to write that short, punchy hook that invites that like meme of like sitting back in the chair like this, leaning forward.
Right.
How much of you're already there. You're in the room. How much of your actual work is writing that short headline to get the attention and get the door cracked?
Nobody's ever asked me that question, but I appreciate that you're asking me because it is a lot of the work. A lot of this is, in my role now, it is how do we position certain things, or how are we going to communicate this, or, debriefing on, what happened, and then how are we going. So yes, that's the majority of the work is distilling the information and then, putting it in a format that is, easy to digest and aligned with what people, and you mentioned incentives. That headline should be aligned with what people care about, what their incentives are. So it's probably, if I were to put a number to it, probably 60 to 70% of the work.
It's funny, like at a when you're managing juniors in writing, and there's this expectation of I need to demonstrate expertise by being thorough and telling you everything.
Right.
Like the most direct response to them is just nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares. Not great coaching.
Right.
But I think that a lot of the magic that you're really coaching on is helping identify what do people around you care about.
Yes.
And how do you use that to climb the ladder?
Yes. Yes. Again, without manipulation. I want to be very clear too. So we talk about juniors, but I coach folks that are a mixed bag, and my team in my corporate role, most of them are older than me by at least 20 years, right? They've been doing this much longer, but but this piece of learning how to communicate and to communicate effectively is a real challenge. And that's why I get the phone calls. Hey, can you help me write this email, or can you help me come up with this headline? And then we go through strategy work. And so anyways, junior or more experienced, communicating is challenging.
Well, yeah, and I say juniors because I kind of came from that background, but in the agency world, I'm a dinosaur, like 15 years in.
Yes.
And I still highly value mentorship and coaching, and know there's always room to learn and improve and kind of self-critique.
Yes.
It's just there's such a value to have it done in a guided format, which is hence why you did the Big Apple Red.
Absolutely.
Like we've talked about a lot, and I think like my bullet point progression here is how do we chart the course? How do we build the confidence that we can do it? And then how do we go execute that and build the brand and check the necessary boxes to get there?
Yes.
How would you summarize talk to the person out there that is at their job or working in a business that feels stuck, maybe scared, maybe considering just pulling the ripcord and quitting or doing something without a plan. What is the right thing to do personally? What is the first introspective step to take?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would want to say, and that I do tell people, is that I see you and I respect you, and how you've gotten here and what you're feeling and experiencing is real and it's valid. But there is a path forward, and you're not alone. And so part of this is, it's not just doing the work solo, it's also having the community and the folks. And that's part of what I do as well. So the women that I coach and the men that I coach, I actually connect them and have built communities based on that, just as support systems. So you are supported. There is a path forward, but it starts with you. See, if you're ready to do the work, we can go through and we can do the work together, and I'll guide you to help get you there. But it's going to start and end with you. So you get to decide, are you going to take action? Because what's the best way to become unstuck?
Do something.
Do something. Take action.
That's such good advice. It's always that. It's just so easy to have insomnia and stare at the ceiling and do nothing and then do nothing the next day. So do something.
Do something. And if you want to do that something, if you want help and guidance on how to do that, then I'm here for you.
This has been an awesome conversation. Is there anything that you want to say before we stand up?
No, I'm grateful for this conversation. And again, I'm grateful for how cool is it that we have things like social media, that we can do the things that we do and reach the number of people that we reach and just showcase that we genuinely care. And on the note of genuinely caring, I genuinely care for you, sir. And I know today is a very just typical day in the neighborhood, but I was somewhere this morning. Now this is, we know today is your birthday. It's also the Lunar New Year, by the way. Like, how cool is that?
I got a text about that this morning.
Did you? So I bought you something. There is significance to this, not the brand, but significance to salsa.
Salsa? Oh, yes.
So do you remember? So for anyone that doesn't know you, I will let them know that you are a foodie. And it's very intimidating hosting someone like you. and especially when you're young and poor. And so I remember we had you over, and I was really worried about what we were going to serve. And I had a salsa out, and you really liked my salsa. And I thought, okay, I did something right. Like, I impressed Scott with something. So in the spirit of your birthday and having this opportunity to connect today, I thought I would gift you a salsa. I've never tried the salsa before. I don't know if it's good, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
One thing that we come and live on different planets, but one thing I think we've always aligned on is directness.
Yes.
And I will definitely tell you if the salsa is good or not.
Okay, thank you.
So you don't have to worry about having punches pulled.
Okay, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for coming on. I know you're a busy person, so I appreciate you spending.
Well, likewise. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's great.
Kate.